Hey everybody, welcome. Today's practice is all about tight hips and knees and specifically hip flexors. Hip flexors, they get tight from doing specifically what I'm doing right now. Doing a lot of sitting, this front thighs, they get tight, they shorten, and they can become really quite painful. They also, on the other hand, if you are active in things like rock climbing, hiking, or weightlifting, also they can cause a lot of tension for the hip flexors. So today's practice, we're concentrating on making space on the front of the thighs and to take care of our hips and knees in general. You're going to need a chair, your mat, some blankets, probably a couple of straps, and blocks. So go ahead and gather all your props and we'll get started.
Place a chair on your mat so that it doesn't slide around on your floor and feels solid. Then stand facing your chair. From there, coming forward, place your hands onto the seat of the chair and then step your right foot forward. Your toes should basically disappear underneath your chair, and you want to make sure the toes point directly forward. And then step your left leg back about 3.5 feet apart. Now, you want to also make sure that your left toes point directly forward, and we're going to actually keep the left heel up off of the floor. So you want to align your feet so the inner edges of your feet are on the same line. Then, with the toes again pointing directly ahead, start to really straighten your legs. So pull the kneecaps up. You want to lengthen your spine forward as you press into the chair with your hands. Lengthen the front of your left thigh back. Press back towards the femur bone. You will feel an extension on that front thigh quadricep muscle. So right there, the hip flexors are getting a stretch. And then you want to reach out through your left inner heel. Rather than taking it down into the floor, keep extending the heel away towards the middle of the room, keeping the heel up. Then press your right big toe ball of the foot into the floor and lift the thigh, the kneecap, up. So these muscles are also lifting and contracting and staying very firm. Take the right hip back away from the front of the chair. That hip tends to roll forward for many of us. And staying here for a few moments with your hips back, elongate the sides of your waist, your side ribs forward towards your armpits. And then you can switch legs. So you'll bring your left foot forward. Again, look to see that your toes go underneath your chair. Step the right leg back. Keep your heel, your right heel, up and reach out through your inner right heel. So you feel that extension coming all the way from your hip, from the top of your thigh, all the way out through the heel. Keep that leg very straight. Press the thigh back. On your front leg, press the big toe ball of the foot into the floor, and as before, pull the kneecap, the thigh, up towards the hip socket. Draw the outer hips in. The front leg, again, if it tends to come out, you have to be mindful and draw that outer thigh, that outer hip back towards the midline of your body. Lifting up the navel so that you can keep the side body long, your spine elongating forward. And then we'll step the feet back towards each other and just pause here in this half Uttanasana with the hands on the chair, pressing the thighs back, kneecaps up, and pressing down into the heels. Take your hands now onto your hips and then come back to standing. Be upright for a moment. Roll your shoulders back. Now, if you feel that you are at your limit, please repeat with the chair once more. But some of you may be able to go a little further into the pose. So if that's you, you can put the chair aside and get a couple of blocks instead. In that same way, from Tadasana, step your right foot forward, step your left foot back. Now, you can start with the heel up, but eventually see if you can reach that inner heel back and bring the heel onto the floor. Your back foot will turn out just a little bit, and that's fine. And then with your hands onto the hips, keeping your chest facing directly forward and pressing through your right big toe ball of the foot, come forward and place your hands on top of your blocks. So you're a little bit lower than before. Take your hips back and push strongly the front of your left thigh back. You should feel an opening, a broadening in your left hamstrings. The middle of your hamstring should feel like it's coming closer to the skin of the thigh. And then again, keeping your front leg steady, the kneecap lifted. Take a breath. Take your hands onto your hips and come all the way up. Be careful. This is also a balancing posture. Stand with your feet together. Stand in Tadasana and take a breath. Take your left foot forward, your right foot back. With the heel up, first adjust that back leg, push the thigh back, then reach the inner heel back, and then the heel can go to the floor. Take a moment, see that you're even, see that you are having your chest facing directly in front of you. Take your hands to your hips, take a nice inhalation, and while you exhale, come forward from the hips. Keep the side body long and take your hands onto your blocks. Make sure your blocks line up to your shoulders so your hands, your arms are straight up and down. Then lengthen your spine forward, take your hips back, and feel that opening, that stretch. Even though it might feel quite intense, feel it in that back leg. Front leg has to learn to also lift up. That hip has to come up and in towards the midline. Take your hands to your hips, inhale, and come back to standing. Stand for a moment in Tadasana. Now we're going to take Virabhadrasana 1, Warrior 1. So let's put that block aside. With the hands on the hips, step the right foot forward and left foot back. Go about 4.5 feet apart. Again, keeping both legs straight for now. Have the chest pointing directly forward. Your left toes turn slightly out. Reach the arms forward and then lift them up really high up. Side body lifted. Now the work here is really to keep your back leg very, very straight. So as you press into your left heel, you're going to bend your right leg, moving from your inner thigh, from your outer thigh, both towards your knee to bend your front leg. Go until your front thigh becomes basically parallel to the floor. Lengthen the arms up and move the front of your left thigh back, pressing towards the bone. Then inhale and come all the way up. And then bring the feet back together and pause for a moment in Tadasana. Then step your left foot forward and your right foot back. Turn the right toe slightly out and press through your outer right heel. Keep the leg steady. Bend your left leg from the inner thigh, extending towards the knee, from your outer thigh, extending towards the knee, and reaching up with the arms so you're lifting the sides of your torso up. So you're lifting the abdomen and the waist up, lengthening your torso all the way to the crown of the head. Keep pushing the front of your right thigh back. Strengthen and straighten the back leg. And then inhale and come all the way up. Pause a moment in Tadasana. Virabhadrasana is an excellent pose to open up those tight hip flexors. we're going to now stand near to the wall so you don't have to worry about your balance. Now this is like a half hero's pose, half virasana that we're going to do standing up. So you can have your left hand against the wall, your left hip near to the wall, and then you're going to bend your right leg and grab hold of the top of your foot or your ankle. You'll see, especially if you're a bit tight in those hip flexors, in those quads, your knee will come forward. See if you can press down through your standing inner heel so your left leg is upright and straight. And with an exhalation, try to soften the front of your right thigh down. Imagine that your knee is getting a little bit heavy there. Not only are you lengthening the front of the thigh, the front of the hip, you're also bringing some space and movement to the back of your knee. Just let the thigh hang. Let the arm carry the leg here. It's a great stretch for the hip joint, for the back, for the knee. And then release. Stand for a moment. Turn around. And now your right foot pointing directly ahead, right leg in Tadasana. Start to bend your left leg. Grab onto your ankle, to your foot, maybe even to your toes, whatever is available to you at this moment. Pause a moment, observe. One side may feel tighter, may feel more loose. Just take a moment to feel how the two sides can be different to each other. And then try to relax, try to let go to gravity. So the quadricep, your left quadricep, drops down away from your waist, away from your torso towards the floor. And it lets go to gravity. Let your knee release downwards. And then let go and stand up straight. We're going to open our mats. If you like to put a blanket on top, you can do that for a little extra padding. And then we're going to lie down on our belly. We're going to prepare for Shalabhasana. This is a back bend, and again, it lengthens the front thighs, it lengthens, opens and stretches the hip flexors. So we're keeping the legs straight, reaching towards the toes from the top of the thighs. You want to make sure your toes point directly back. And then we're taking the hands, lining them up with our hips, and taking the hands a little now higher up as we roll the shoulders back and up. Looking straight ahead, lengthen the sides of your torso towards your armpits, roll the shoulders back and start to lift the chest up, reach back through your arms, and lift the feet, the knees, and the thighs up off of the floor, and the front of the thighs should lengthen towards your feet. Then release, take a breath. Rest your head. You can cross your hands and rest your forehead on the hands. Let's do that one more time. So set it up, lengthen your legs back, take the arms back, have the palms face one another, roll your shoulders back, and then inhale and come all the way up. Draw your tailbone into the floor, reach the sides of your torso towards your armpits, look straight ahead, and try and lift the thighs up as high as you can, and more importantly, lengthen the front thighs towards your knees. And then come down, take a breath, and release. Now we're going to do a bent leg variation of the same pose of Shalabhasana. It's a hard pose, but even practicing it, even setting up for it, it is really beneficial for your hips, for your thighs, for your back, and for your knees. So we're going to bend the legs. We're going to reach the arms back and try to lift the chest, and any amount, even if it's a half an inch, try to lift your knees up and lengthen your shins and your calves up towards your heels. Try to take your thighs off of the floor and pressing your tailbone down. And then release and rest. Take a breath. Last, we're going to take Dhanurasana and we're going to get a hold of our ankles here. Now, if you can, you'll bend your right leg and wrap your fingers around the front of your ankles, and then you'll do the same with the left. If here it's impossible for you to hold your ankles, have a couple of straps nearby. You can put the straps around the ankles so they become like arm extenders, and then you're holding on to the straps as I am showing. If you don't need the straps, again holding on to your ankles, lift and roll your shoulders back, lift up your shins, lift your knees up, lift your thighs up, and draw your tailbone down towards the floor, and breathe and release and come all the way down. Take a moment's rest. Now bend your left leg, hold your left ankle or use your strap, and then go on to the right. And prepare, inhale, and lift. Draw the tailbone down into the floors. Try to take the buttocks down into the floors as you lift the thighs up, knees up, shins up, chest up, and head up. And then release all the way down. Relax, breathe, let go. And then roll onto your side. If you would like to take a blanket for your head, by all means do so. Keep your legs bent for a moment. Lift the hips with your hands. Lengthen your lower back. Shove the buttocks flush towards your heels and gently take the hips back down. Pause here for a moment. Then pull your right knee in towards you. Wrap your fingers around your shin. And relaxing the right leg so your arm is doing more work, start to straighten your left leg. Elongate the front of the thigh towards the knee and reach out through your inner heel. Point the toes directly up. Take a moment here. Let your inner thighs extend away from each other. Let the hamstrings get that gentle stretch. And then bring both feet back onto the floor. Once more, take time to lengthen your lower back. Now, bend your left knee in. Wrap your fingers around the shin. Relax on the left side and straighten on the right. Reach away with your right leg. Point the toes directly up and reach out through your inner heel. Roll the outer thigh towards the inner thigh. Your right leg remains steady and firm. And then release. You can again adjust your low back and take a moment's rest in Shavasana. Let go of the legs. Let go of the arms. Let go any tension in your abdomen, in your throat, in the face. And let your breathing become smooth, soft, and gentle. When you're ready, bend your legs, roll onto your side, and bring yourself up. That was it for today's practice. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon. Namaste.